What's going on, guys? So I think everyone's heard the joke about photographers, which is that all we do is push buttons, and I think that's true in a lot of ways. I mean, I guess, yeah, we're sitting in just a pit and we push our button, we get our photo. I think the real artistry comes in the editing, and that's where you really see everyone's different styles come out. My friend Rickelle just put out a challenge where she's putting out some of her raw photos and people are editing them, and I think it's a really great way to show how different people edit and what effect that has on the final product. So I want to take you through my edits and hopefully learn some about Lightroom and about how I edit photos. Alright, so here are the photos. Here are the 4 that I did earlier. So I did this, started here, ended up there. This one, before, after, and then before, after. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this photo of Sam from Architects. Again, this is Rickelle's raw photo. So go ahead and create virtual copies of them. I will 2-star them, filter 2 stars, and then reset these guys so we are back to square one. Alright, starting here, when I'm starting with a concert photo, my first thing is always the exposure. This thing is fine, the exposure, so I'll leave that. Next I go into colors. I like to use this tool. So this tool right here, once you drag and click something, it'll make that white. So this would set that photo for white, or set the white balance based on the point of the face. You do it over here. You want to click around and find a spot that works. Generally, you want to find something that's supposed to be white. So here, his shoes or his face would work. I'm gonna go with white on his shoes. So now you get the blown out red. We got crazy stuff happening. This photo is still a long way off. Alright, so instead of toying with that, we'll just leave it for the moment. I've never tried to talk through and edit my photos, so I'm really curious about how this is gonna go, but we'll see. Next thing I would do is come in here. So start with the exposure, then I look at the white balance. The white balance is pretty messy. The colors are still very far off from where I want them. So I generally go down here, what's this called? Camera calibration, and I will work from here. So these, just kind of play it by ear. So what I like to do when I'm editing is I'll tend to go all the way to one side and then all the way to the other side and then figure out what works from there. So here, I like it somewhere over here, somewhere in that area. We'll fine tune that later. Greens, we'll go and do the same. Too much, weird, in there. Blues, somewhere in there. So my goal here is to make the photo look as close to the way I want it as I can. Obviously these are very big changes, so you're not going to be able to fine tune it, but we're getting it closer and closer to being normal skin colors and getting the colors in the background to look good. So next I'll come and work on the contrast. The colors are pretty much where I want them. So my next step now is to figure out how to make the photo look good. So the contrast here will make the blacks black and the white white. That's a little bit too much, turn it down. Highlights. So the highlights are the highlights of the photo, anything that's bright in the photo. Don't want to cut them too much. I do want to cut them a little bit here because this photo is very blown out. Now we're into the shadows. Probably darken those too. You really get this black down. The whites pump up because I like this glow and I like the glow on his face. The last thing I'll do is get these blacks nice and dark again. Let's minimize this so you can see more of the photo. Drag this so you can see these bars even better. Alright, cool. So now we're getting close. The face is still kind of green, but I like this orange, I like where that's coming, and I like the contrast of the photo. So we're getting there. Next is clarity. This is great. Vibrance and saturation. Bump it up a little bit. Okay, we might come back to the tone curves. Tone curves I use sometimes, but we'll come back to them. Here we have hue, saturation, and luminance. So I like to start with this tool. You can do it by dragging these sliders as well. I like to use this, so you click on this, and then as you go over the colors, it'll select the colors that are affected. So over here you can see it's selecting the orange on the right. Over here you can see it's the green because his face is still kind of green. So we're going to start with the skin. I like to start with the skin tones, get the skin tones dialed in, and then work around that. So this, we'll see that's not right, and that's not good. Don't want the green. We'll take it somewhat this way, and we'll go here, somewhere in that burnt orange area. Onto saturation, pull out the green on his face, we don't really want that. And this is where we're starting to figure out what tones we want to use. I like it somewhere in there, I think. And we'll go into luminance, so this is how much white, how much light is in the color. Here in his face, I think I want to bump it up a little bit to really make his face pop out and look even more white. Try and get his skin as close to good as we can. Get into the orange over here, brighten it. So we go too much, it's blown out, and we take it all out. We're gonna mess everything up. So somewhere, I want it up a little bit, I think. Somewhere in there looks good to me. Into the split toning, so this is adding colors into the highlights of the image or adding something to the shadows of the image. So you can see if I put a really harsh color, you can really see what it's doing. So here we're affecting the highlights. I think because I like the red, I want to keep pushing the red highlights in the background. So we'll find some kind of orange or red that we like. Here I'll just click around a little bit to something looks good. And then we'll go into the shadows. Shadows, since we added some red into the highlights, let's look to add some blue into the shadow. Something a little darker. I don't like how that looks. So keep clicking. So you're like, that's too much, but I like where it's going. So I like somewhere here in the yellow. I think I like that right where that is. The next thing I'll do is I like to go into the lens correction. So here we're affecting the fisheye. So if we go all the way this way, it's like super fisheye, and all the way this way is super wide angle. So this one, I think I want to do a little fisheye and have him pop out just a little bit more. All right, so we're getting close. So we got his skin tone to where we want it. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and crop to how we want. Somewhere in there looks good to me. We'll add a radial filter. And what this will do is add some dark around the edges. So we look at this, the red part is the part that it's affecting. So we'll turn that off. And then where do I want that? Somewhere in there looks good to me. I like to change the color of it just to really make the photo pop. Some yellow in there. They bump everything up. Not so much. Cool, so we're getting close. So now the photo is pretty much how I want it. The last thing to do is go through and fine tune everything. So looking at this, my first issue is with face. It's still not quite the right color to me. So we're gonna go through. Actually, we'll zoom back in and we'll brush it up. So what we're doing here is we're applying a filter that's going to affect just the area we're highlighting. So we'll go through to his face. You can see if I blow it all the way out, so that's kind of the area we're working with. We'll come through. What I really want to do is just get some white in there. So we started right around here, but up the exposure we get a little bit of white in there that I want. Maybe play with the color of it just a hair. Cool. Alright, so that's one photo down. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So this one is a little bit simpler. There's not as many hard colors to start out with. So here, colors look pretty good. The exposure is my first place to start. So this photo looks kind of dark to me. So I'm going to go ahead and bump that up. As you notice, this photo is taken 2.0, which means that the depth of field is very small. So we see that the base is really in focus, but the head is kind of out of focus. And as we keep turning the exposure, we're going to really notice the softness and the sharpness even more. So you want to be careful here and not overdo that. I'm going to go up here just a little bit. We'll go into contrast. Make sure we get the colors dialed in. So if we go a little bit warmer, we can bring out those oranges nicely. And then get the pink, maybe green, kind of like that green in there. All right, so I know usually I would go, or last time I said I would go into camera calibration. Here looking at this photo, the colors are pretty much how I want them. So I'm good to not work with this right now. I'll come back and do color in a little bit. So my next step here is contrast of the photo. So I'm looking at it, let's see what we do. Maybe put some highlights up in there, bring some shadows down. Drive it up, bring blacks down a little bit. Clarity, vibrance, and saturation. This is cool right now, but there's definitely we can make it better. Start with the hues. Start with the red because it makes sense to me. No real reason. So like that there. We get to the blue. So blue is affecting everywhere in the photo you can see. We really want to be careful not to ruin the base that he has either. Next thing, saturation. Start with blue. I don't want to take the blue out too much, but I do want to mute it a little bit. And we'll get to the orange. I like that. And then luminance, boost it up. Awesome, so there's that. We're into the split toning, so we'll figure out what we want to put in the highlights. Start with shadows this time. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. Pick one, play with them, see which one works for you. I tend to go back and forth. Sometimes there's a specific part of the image I really know I need to. Sometimes if there's a specific part of the image that I really need to work on, I'll start accordingly. But if I'm just trying to add color and just make the photo pop, then I'll just kind of start and pick a starting point. So here, I'm liking the red. This is too much. Somewhere in there is okay. I think I like it more in here though. Somewhere in that area. And then highlights, kind of like that blue. What else? Yeah, I'm gonna leave that blue. I like that. All right. So we are gonna go ahead and work on the fisheye again. I like to just make it pop a little bit. Style thing. It's not really a good reason to do it. Just think it looks cool and adds a little bit of flair to the picture. Especially with this where I know that a lot of people are editing the photos as well. I wanna make sure that mine look just a little different. And so adding the fisheye is a little bit of a way to do that. Get these colors. Awesome. All right, so this photo is just about done. I want to crop it a little bit. That wasn't working for some reason. Like that. I don't love that though. That looks better to me. Then we'll go ahead and add our radial filter. So again, we're going to lower the black, so we're going to add a little dark circle on the edge that'll really make the center of the image pop because it is a little bit lighter. Just like last time, we'll go and play with the colors just a little bit. I think we're going to go ahead and add some warmth in, and then maybe just leave it there. 2 photos down. All right, so hopefully by now you've learned something. If you have, please drop a like on the video. I'm going to go ahead and edit these last 2, and I'll speed through it for you guys. Guy's been begging to come in, so I'll sit with him. But thank you guys for watching. I just finished the last 2 photos up, and I'm happy with how they came out. So big shout out to Rickelle for letting us use her photos. I appreciate that. I think it's a super cool project you're working on. Keep doing awesome things and keep supporting all the photographers around here. And to everyone else, keep editing. A lot of it is just training your eye and getting practice with that. So as long as you keep practicing, keep working at it, you'll be okay. Alrighty guys, till next time.